The Heart and Stroke Foundation is out with its annual report today. We want to go straight to CTV's medical specialist, Dr. Marla Shapiro, with more. Dr. Marla, tell us about the top line of this report. What is it telling us?
So it's telling us that despite the fact Canadians are aware they're not making changes, we still have, if you look at it by the numbers, more than 6 million Canadians living with either heart disease or stroke. Only about 1 in 2 know their own risk factors. And we could have 80% prevention of both heart attack, heart disease, stroke through healthy behaviors. And if you look at what those risk factors are, at least 9 in 10 people have one risk factor that they could modify, be it lifestyle, be it smoking, be it exercise. But they're aware of it, yet they don't take that behavioral change.
Interesting. How did researchers break down these numbers even further?
So what we're trying to do is figure out where are we seeing the damage? Is it in heart attack? Is it in stroke? Is it in lifestyle? Is it in risk factors? So the actual numbers look like over 108,000 strokes on an annual basis. So this is per year, not individuals living with the after effect of stroke. 62,000 new heart attacks that happen every year, and 135,000 cases of heart failure. And congestive heart failure is really something that can change the quality of your life and how you live your life. So those are the numbers themselves. 1 in 5 deaths that we see in Canada are related to heart disease or stroke, which means every 7 minutes in Canada, we are losing someone to one of these illnesses.
Every 7 minutes?
Every 7 minutes. And about 3.6 million adults are still smokers, which is our #1 risk factor in terms of heart disease and stroke. And unfortunately, Canada has the highest youth vaping rates. Overall, it's girls more than boys. But if you look even in grades 7 to 12, we're looking at about 15%. And by the time you're in grade 12, more than 1 in 4 kids are vaping, about 27%, not recognizing that vaping itself is as bad as smoking. So smoking is the leading cause of preventable death. That's not a surprise to you and me.
No.
But that vaping itself causes inflammation in blood vessels, puts you at higher risk for smoking. It's a risk for heart disease. So if we look at what can we do to prevent, we always talk about this, you and I, fruit and vegetables and the consumption declining. People are just not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And let's be fair, it's very expensive, so people will cut there.
Absolutely. And in terms of exercise, we know that we're not meeting our targets. We have high blood pressure increasing year over year since 2000. That goes along with the obesity epidemic. That's one of the risk factors for hypertension. Close to 8.5 million adults are diagnosed with high blood pressure every year. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're treating their hypertension. 1 in 4, that means over the age of 18, have high cholesterol, another risk factor for heart attack and stroke. And we've got close to 4 million Canadians living with diabetes. So we particularly highlight the hypertension, the smoking, and the diabetes, the fruit intake, because these are modifiable risk factors once identified that you can make a difference to.
There is a lot going on here. So what about the medical risk factors at play with all of this then?
So the medical risk factors are really sort of the inverse of what we've just been talking about. So if you look at what the medical risk factors are, first of all, we're going to look at lifestyle, we're going to look at smoking, we're going to look at the fact that if you're an adult, you should be doing about 30 minutes of exercise 5 times a week. We're not doing it. If you're a teen, you should be doing 60 minutes of exercise 3 times a week, 180 minutes. We're not doing it. So in terms of all of those modifiable risk factors for hypertension, for smoking, for diabetes, remember 90% of the diabetes that we see is weight-related, not necessarily genetic or insulin-dependent diabetics. Not that people who have type 2 don't end up on insulin, they do, but it's related many times to lifestyle. So we're not paying attention to the fact that although 90% of Canadians will say it's important to do this, we're actually not doing it. And these numbers really highlight the epidemic that we're looking at. And remember, age is a risk factor, and we're sitting on an aging population. So all of these risk factors need to be looked at and addressed. And the most important thing I can say to you is, do you know your risk factors? Do you know your blood pressure? Do you know your cholesterol? Do you know your blood sugar? Do you know what a healthy weight is? Do you know how much exercise you're doing?
You've given us a lot to think about, Dr. Marla, this morning. Appreciate that. 1 in 7 deaths, or 1 death every 7 minutes.
That's exactly right.
That is wild.
To heart disease and stroke.
Thanks, Dr. Marla. Appreciate it.